The Fiscal Cliff and Simpson and Bowles. Hi, I'm Michael J. Muccio, author of America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition. And today we're talking about Chapter 7 in the book, Coming Out of the Asylum, Simpson and Bowles. Well, Simpson and Bowles is something that we've heard that term tossed around a great deal in the media. But what actually is it? Well, the president established a nonpartisan commission back in 2010 with the intent to establish policies to improve the fiscal situation in our country, in the medium term, that is, to improve the fiscal situation and to achieve fiscal sustainability over the long run. So what happened? Well, in short, nothing. Senator Tom Coburn himself, who was on the commission, writes how unfortunate that it was the president refused to offer any real feedback and refused to really embrace the recommendations. So if he only would have, though, oh, what a difference he could have made in the economy. So there's still indeed hope. Now, the plan would cut 3-to-1 spending over revenue increase. So you'd actually cut $3 trillion off of the federal the deficit and generate $1 trillion in revenue. So and the revenue increase came through reducing the tax codes and reducing tax rates and eliminating spending in the tax codes. So if it was the president who set up the commission in the first place, why did he choose not to pursue the recommendations? Well, in short, cutting spending and living within a budget means that many lobbyists and about half of the electorate are going to be unhappy. And if they're unhappy, then they don't vote for you. Yet, it's certainly not too radical of a plan. In fact, I can understand perfectly why Senator Tom Coburn had heartache with tons of it, because it needs to be far bolder when we're over $16 trillion in debt. To take 10 years to only lower the debt by $4 trillion is quite feeble in spending cuts. And since Medicare was off the table to begin with, we're not really intelligently facing the mathematical truth of what's facing our country. So having said that, though, now let me just backtrack. Having said that, at least it is stopping the increases and starting some semblance of reducing the debt, be it ever so infinitesimal. So let's start where we can. We've got to at least start and do something. Now, I thoroughly explain the math of Medicare in the book, and I think that every American needs to know that math, because that's the biggest pressure on our deficit is Medicare. We need to understand the math of when Medicare came in and how many workers were out there at that time versus how many workers there are today versus the amount of people that are taking out of Medicare. So now the question is, over all of this, is what's the key? And the key, once again, is going to come back to education, which is, of course, why I wrote the book, America's Battle for Free Enterprise. That's the key. At the grassroots level, we really need to understand these issues, write our congressman, our senator, and so forth. Now, sometimes people ask me, well, what about business people? What do business people say about Simpson and Bowles? Well, 80% of the CEOs around the country are for Simpson and Bowles, and they can't understand why our government didn't follow through and enact the recommendations. Doesn't make sense to a business-minded person. But then again, we don't want to necessarily accuse politicians of being business-minded, because that has not been the way they have conducted the economy of our country. I mean, as a whole. I don't mean to be picking on them. Just as a whole, that's the way the institution has come out. It hasn't been real savvy in the area of business. Now, the indiscretion and the inactivity of the House of Representatives, Senate, the executive branch, has placed the country in dire straits with both the deficit and the overall economy. If there is anything that we can do about it, what might that be? Well, once again, I say call your representatives. Urge them to at least pass the minimal plan of Simpson and Bowles, and then, for goodness sakes, to stop making fun of efforts to do something with Medicare, like, the TV commercials of a Paul Ryan lookalike pushing Granny off of a cliff in a wheelchair. I mean, come on, that was a new low in political ads. So that doesn't help anything. But if people get involved and the education occurs, and then naturally I'm recommending reading America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition, because I think that will go a long way to getting that education across down at the grassroots level. It's a quick read, it's easy to understand, and I believe you'll enjoy it and learn a great deal. We'll be back in a moment with more.